Welcome to Standard Voice News Channel. I am Samira Ibrahim. Here are your top stories for today. Zamfara government denies preventing 3 girls from sitting for SSCE. Transport Ministry plans 10 billion naira palliative for NURTW members and others. Crude oil prices drop after U.S. stockpiles surged higher. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari received AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina, tells him nothing succeeds like success. Now the news in details. The Zamfara State Commissioner of Education, Dr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, on Thursday denied that the government had prevented 3 final year students of Government Girls Arabic Secondary School, Gusau, from sitting for their final year examination. The commissioner made the denial following widespread condemnation of the action, which residents said was an attempt to truncate the future of the girls. Dr. Abdullahi, however, told newsmen in Gusau that though the 3 students were earlier suspended from cooking in their dormitory, they were allowed to sit for the senior secondary school certificate examination but made to leave the school after each paper. He explained that government suspended the students as their action was capable of causing fire outbreak in the school. News Agency of Nigeria, NANS, report that a source who sought for anonymity had told newsmen that the students were not allowed to sit for physics practical and civic education examinations. Already, a traditional title holder, Sadaunan Shinkafi, Alhaji Aliyu Jibril, said he will pursue the matter on behalf of the 3 girls. A notorious member of bandits and kidnap for ransom syndicate terrorizing Safana, Batsari, Musa, and Kurfi local government areas of Katsina State, Abubakar Ibrahim, has been arrested by the Katsina State Police Command. The suspect led other members of his syndicate on motorbikes, all armed with AK-47 rifles, and attacked Dagarawa and Kudewa villages, both of Safana and Kurfi local government areas of the state, and kidnapped one Ashur Ibrahim of Dagarawa village, Dudwa Audu and Asiya Saleh, both of Kudewa village, Kurfi local government area of Katsina State, and took them into Rugu forest. However, Nemenis caught up with the suspect when he was apprehended by SAS operatives after he collected the sum of 241,000 naira ransom from the relatives of the victims. In the course of investigation, the suspect confessed to the commission of the offense along with others now at large. The sum of 241,200 naira ransom was recovered in his possession. The command succeeded in rescuing the victims. The Ministry of Transportation has constituted a committee for the disbursement of the federal government's 10 billion naira palliative for road transport operators and workers. The Minister of State for Transportation, Bimisola Saraki, said this in a statement by Eric Ojikwe, Director of Press and Public Relations of the Ministry, on Thursday in Abuja. Mrs. Saraki disclosed this when the immediate past National President and the incumbent National President of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, Najuddin Yasin and Tajuddin Lawal, visited her in Abuja. She said members of the committee were drawn from the Ministry of Transportation and all other relevant stakeholders in the transportation sector. She urged the unions to interface towards having one recognized body that the ministry could deal with for proper and speedy disbursement of the fund. The minister said this was important to avoid delay in disbursing the fund, thus defeating the intent and purpose of the palliative. She congratulated the new president of NURTW on his election, noting that the task before him was daunting but not insurmountable, and urged him to continue to steer the union's affairs in the right direction. Mrs. Saraki commended them for their perseverance during the lockdown as their livelihood was disrupted by safety protocols put in place by the government to curb the spread of the pandemic. The 17 factional lawmakers of Edo State House of Assembly, led by Victor Edoro, held plenary on Thursday, where they said the approval given to Governor Godwin Obaseki by the other members, led by Frank Okiye, to obtain 1.5 billion naira loan is null and void. It called on the commercial bank being approached for the facility to decline approval. Speaking under matters of urgent public importance, the Akoko Edo II decried the approval of the loan by an illegal gathering of dissident members in the government house, who claim they have approved the sum of 1.5 billion naira for Godwin Obaseki-led government of Edo State. He said the purpose of the loan is to fund their electoral interest, adding that their election is not an official matter of the state. He said as a house, they cannot afford to sell the future of their children. On his part, the member representing Eredo West constituency, Chris Okabin, said he and his colleague from Oredo were embarrassed by the action of the governor. Nigerians have taken to Twitter to react to the news that trader money beneficiaries are not willing to pay back their loans. Africa Examiner recalls that the trader money program was designed to assist the market women to boost their businesses. However, according to Bashira Abdulrazak Sanusi, Kwara State focal person for the National Social Investment Program (NSIP), some beneficiaries of the scheme seized the money as national cake and not willing to refund. She said poor masses are not ready to repay the loan after collection because of the attitude of Nigerians to anything from the government, thinking it is a national cake. Also, those that disburse the money do not leave a record of beneficiaries like phone number and addresses, thus making it difficult to track them for repayment. This development has elicited reactions from Nigerians as they took to the microblogging scheme to express their views. The Senate Ad Hoc Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution has extended the submission of memoranda by 2 weeks. A statement from the Office of the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovi Omo Agege, who is the committee chairman, indicates that memoranda will not continue to be received until September 25th. The statement was signed by Yomi Odunuga, Special Advisor, Media and Publicity to the Deputy President of the Senate. This statement indicated that the earlier slated deadline for submission of memoranda was September 15th. It, however, noted that the new deadline was in response to appeals by stakeholders from various parts of the Federation. Giving further explanation, it stated that the extension of a deadline will accommodate those who requested for more time to bring their memoranda forward. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has said the power distribution companies will be liable to capacity charge for failure to take their entire load allocation caused by constraints in their networks. NAC disclosed this in a document sent by a correspondent on Thursday, in which it announced to the DISCO the review of the extraordinary tariff review application filed by them. Last week, the DISCO announced what they called the new service reflective tariff, which took effect from September 1, 2020, with the tariffs being charged residential customers receiving a minimum of 12 hours of power supply, rising by over 70%. It was reported on Monday that the Transmission Company of Nigeria said the DISCO failed to distribute 8,733.39 megawatts in the week ended August 30th. The TCN, which manages the national grid, is still fully owned and operated by the government. As a video emerged on social media on Thursday, which shows the national leader of the APC, Bola Tinubu, sitting down to greet the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Onitan Ogunwusi Ojaja II, some Nigerians have taken to Twitter to express their opinions on the issue. Prominent among them is the spokesman for Pan-Yoruba group, Afenifere Yinka Odumakin, who disclosed that it was not proper for Tinubu to sit down and greet the king. Yinka Odumakin said there are still Yoruba people with due respect to their royal fathers. They will not say because they are in a modern age, they will not give the proper respect that they have given to their Oba. He said they saw the time former President Obasanjo prostrated before the Oni. So it is still the culture and they must sustain it and give the respect as it is due to the monarchs. Also, the former aviation minister Femi Fani Kayode writes that the Asiwaju of Bodilino refused to stand up to greet the Oni of Ife speaks volumes. As the federal government rolls out the Economic and Sustainability Plan and set goal for national food security, President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria not to issue a kobo of the country's reserve for the importation of food items and fertilizer. At a meeting of the National Food Security Council at the State House Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari stated his earlier verbal directive to the Apex Bank, saying he will pass it down in written that nobody importing food should be given money. The president emphasized the need to boost local agriculture. He said from only 3 operating in the country, there are 33 fertilizer blending plants now working, adding that he will not pay a kobo of the foreign reserves to import fertilizer. Furthermore, President Muhammadu Buhari also directed that blenders of fertilizer should convey products directly to the state government so as to skip the cadre of transporters undermining the effort to successfully deliver the product to users at reasonable cost. The Naira exchanged to the dollar for 440 Naira in the parallel market on Thursday, despite the resumption of forex sales of the Bureau de Change operators on Monday. The Naira had last week dropped from 480 Naira to 420 Naira, following the Central Bank of Nigeria's announcement to resume forex sales to the BDCs. In a circular by the CBN, it stated that as part of efforts to enhance accessibility to foreign exchange, particularly to travelers, following the announcement of limited resumption of international flights by the Minister of Aviation, commencing with Abuja, Lagos, the Central Bank of Nigeria wishes to inform the general public that gradual sales of foreign exchange to licensed BDC operators had commenced on September 7, 2020. Consequently, purchase of foreign exchange by BDCs shall be on Mondays and Wednesdays in the first instance. The President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired in a meeting with some critical stakeholders over rising price of food in the country. The stakeholders, including 6 state governors, are members of the National Food Security Council. The meeting is holding inside the council chamber of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Those attending the meeting include the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Obaseki, Secretary to the Government of the Federation Boss Mustapha, National Security Advisor Major General Babagana Mungono, retired, and some ministers, among others. Governors attending the meeting are Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State, who is also the Vice Chairman of the Council, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State, Simon Lalong of Plateau State, Darius Ishaku of Taraba, and Dare Omahi of Ebonyi State. On business. Crude oil prices dropped at the Asian trading session on Thursday. The fall in energy prices is coming on growing concerns about fuel demand after recent data showed that U.S. crude inventories increased last week rather than falling as expected, coupled with COVID-19 case loads surging higher. At the time this report was drafted, U.S. West Texas Intermediate lost about 0.74% to trade at $37.79 a barrel, after gaining 3.5% on Thursday. Brent crude prices dropped to 0.51% to trade at $40.58 a barrel, after rising 2.5% on Wednesday. As COVID-19 case loads surged in several parts of the United States, the world's largest economy stockpiles surged by 3 million barrels in the week to September 4th, according to data from American Petroleum Institute report. Still on the business news, GT Bank, Access Bank, Zenith Bank, FBN Holdings, and 9 other banks listed on the Nigeria Stock Exchange (NSE) spent 271.64 billion naira on personal expenses in the first half of 2020, compared to the 256.06 billion naira recorded in the same period in 2019. Interestingly, this accrued increase occurred at a time several companies were cutting down in their costs. According to checks By Nairametrics research, the banks increased their expenses by over 17 billion naira during the period under review, and this shows a 6.92% increase. Nairametrics had reported in first quarter of 2020 alone that 13 banks collectively spent more than 178 billion naira as personal expenses during the first quarter of the year. This shows a 9.5% increase when compared to 162.6 billion naira, which the 13 banks recorded during the comparable period in first quarter of 2019. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari Thursday received an audience at the State House Abuja the newly re-elected President of Africa Development Bank (AFDB), Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, and congratulated him on his second and final term in office. He congratulated Adesina on winning the election, saying nothing succeeds like success. Dr. Adesina had overcome stiff opposition last month to win an unprecedented 100% votes from the regionals and non-regionals that make up the bank, and was inaugurated for second term of 5 years as AFDB president on September 1st. The president said he had told so many people why he backed Adesina. That has been the news from Standard Voice Television. To end the news, a quick look at the major headlines. Zamfara government denies preventing 3 girls from sitting for SSCE. Transport Ministry plans 10 billion naira palliative for NURTW members and others. On business, crude oil prices drop after U.S. stockpiles surged higher. And on the international scene, President Muhammadu Buhari received AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina, tells him nothing succeeds like success. That's the news. On behalf of the production crew, Head of News and Current Affairs Department, Ibrahim Garbatunau, I am Samira Ibrahim, wishing you a pleasant weekend. Keep watching Standard Voice Television News. Goodbye.